it really made me question, like, why are people, there tends to be, people tend to be short or like maybe too forward in New Jersey at times, right? And I'm like, what is going on here? Why are they yelling so much? So it really made me curious about how to understand human behavior and to help people shift out of it, right? Because even in my own family and with my own friends growing up and with myself, right, there's patterns that we get into that we're aware of, that we're doing, but we're still in that karmic cycle of repeating them for whatever reason. And so that was part of what Aditi and I were talking about with like when insight isn't enough, right? Sometimes insight's enough, it turns the lights on and we just needed to shine that light on that darkness and it expels it. But sometimes it's more ingrained than that. And we need to find the root cause and really heal the root cause to shift it. And so as a part of my own self-empowerment journey, really looking for how do I get into the power and the self-mastery that I want to be in. And I think that that's the same for all of us. Like, cut these ropes off of me and let me be free.
And with and as you've been doing this work with yourself and then with others, can you please tell us how you met Chris? And then we can have Chris talk a little bit about hers, and we can continue the conversation. So, how did you get connected with Chris?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to meet Chris through a mutual friend who's also an energy healer, light worker person. And I would talk to her about how I would be concerned about pushing that envelope of psychology forward, right? Because I want to bring energy work and this deeper spiritual healing back, right? Psychology actually traditionally means the study of the soul. So psyche is Latin for soul and ology is the study of. And so, and I think like deep inside, that's, I always had this guidance to go into this field. And so it's really like, how do we bring the study of the soul back into our field? And so with that, because we've moved more into studying the thoughts and studying the behaviors of people, which is only one aspect of who we are as multidimensional beings, I became concerned with leaving the standard of care too much. And so that's a big talk that we have to balance as being in the medical profession. If you go against the standard of care, it can open you up. So one of the ways that I did it, just that everybody knows, is there's evidence-based treatment, and then there's treatment-based evidence, right? Because if we're always in the standard of care, we're never going to evolve, right? So, and we need to evolve because humanity is still suffering, right? There's still poverty, there's still illness, there's still shame and depression. And so we want to help people get out of those patterns. And so that was, and the spiritual, bringing the spirituality into it is what we did. So my friend was like, oh, I have this other therapist who is studying the same stuff and balancing the same dilemma. And why don't you guys connect so that you guys can really talk about it and figure out how to move forward together. And so we have, and we met each other, and I was like, I want to rent office space from you right away. And now we're on vacation at Isla Mujeres together. You guys, I'm going to actually show you guys our view really quick. I mean, can you see our ocean view out there?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, wow. So there's cool an ocean view. So I mean, we're like on adventures together and having all kinds of fun and putting this New Beginnings workshop together and some family constellation healing and off.
Wow. And thank you, Dr. Lauren. And Chris, will you please, with healing of constellations, before we talk about healing of family constellations, can you please tell us a little bit about your childhood, how you grew up, where you grew up, and why you got into this field and career?
Yeah. My father was a lifetime military man. I grew up moving around through Germany and Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and Fort Ord. So I was just moving around with my family. I was from a very young age interested in things such as reincarnation, astrology, and also in I read a couple books by a man named Eric Van Doniken at the time. It was about chariots of the gods and in search of ancient astronauts. And I was only 12 years old, and I was just devouring these type of subjects of, lifetime, past lifetime soul groups. But I never had anybody to bounce that off of. And so they just went dormant for many years. And ever so often I would have these moments of awakening, but again, I would kind of go back to what the standard is, and that is, trying to just make it in life. So I largely had most of my adult life was struggle. It was, married at 20 and children, at 23. And I was going through life just trying to make it, just hanging on, to pay the bills. It was paycheck to paycheck. It was going to the grocery store with $40, and I didn't know there was anything different to look forward to other than just working for the rest of my life. And I knew that what I was doing was not making me happy, but it was what brought the paycheck. And that was how I lived most of my life. And then at the age of 40, I decided I finally had to step into my power and do what I knew was right. And I went through a divorce. And as a single mom, I worked full-time and went to school full-time at night. And I finished my bachelor's degree and then went straight on to get my master's in marriage and family therapy. And at that time, you don't get paid much when you come out with your master's. You're, working for nonprofits. And so I was still in that struggle and working through all of that. And eventually I moved into private practice. And when I moved into private practice, it was the first time that I actually experienced being able to call the shots the way I want to. Everything I was doing prior to that was trying to hit the mark for all the agencies and the bureaucratic, needs of these agencies, and trying to do my work behind the scenes, of really helping families. And I worked with of cases. I worked with foster kids, and I worked with at-risk children, and I worked with families and wraparound programs. So I was doing the work with the hardest populations. And then when I went into private practice, I started to work with trauma because all that work that I was doing in the nonprofits gave me that background. And that's really when things started to open up. One of the things that happens if you're in this field is that it's really up to us to do our own work. We can only take people as far as that we've gone. And so I knew that I had to do my own work. And so that was difficult because intellectually I knew how to reason analytically my trauma. And yet it wasn't helping. I could sit with a therapist for years and talk about my trauma, and it wasn't going to move any of it because my trauma was largely in my body. And that was one way to search out these different methods. And one of them is the emotional freedom technique called tapping, which is an evidence-based treatment now. So, there was these things that I would go to work with more with me and to uncover my subconscious blocks and limiting beliefs. And then I found other things like advanced integrative therapy, which was helping to clear belief systems and negative patterns. And then pretty soon you're like testing them out on people in session that you know well, because you don't want them to think you're crazy. It's just so woo.
Because we're pushing them, yeah. Woo means effective, just in case anyone didn't know that. You want the woo.
Yeah, and it was just this. And then in 2015, I opened a center for integrative counseling. Center for Counseling and Integrative. That's where I met Lauren, and I did that for 5 years, and just closed the doors on that this year. And I just have my private practice, and I work with my friend who's a shaman, and we do work on our website is Integrative Shamans, where we do all kinds of different types of spiritual work, energetic work, so the shamanistic approach to life, and all of it together. It's just one holistic, yummy ball of wonder.
A
Did I answer the question, by the way?
Yes. And I've been taking notes here. A yummy ball of wonder is a great way to close that comment and that answer. And with that, I want to get back to Dr. Aditi. You mentioned several things there. One of the things you mentioned, Dr. Aditi, is that your friends trusted you. They found they would start speaking with you, and you didn't know what to do, how to help them. um, I believe there are people that are watching and listening who may feel in a similar way, where people confide in them and trust them. Since that time, since school now, knowing what you know now, what could you tell people that find themselves in that situation, not only in how to help, but also protect them from, say, just taking in, uh, say, information or conversations that might be heartfelt but can also be negative?
Great question, Fernando. Well, one of the tools that really helped me along my path was really learning more about the unconscious mind and learning neuro-linguistic programming. So that's where we met. We met at a neuro-linguistic programming seminar by Dr. Matt James, and with the Empowerment Partnership. And that training really got me thinking about how it is that our language influences our reality, and being able to hear how people describe their reality, then we can begin to create shift and change by using our language, because as we know, words are very powerful. And when you add the energy work with the Hawaiian traditions, traditional shamanism as well, they talk about how the word can create life and the word can create death. And that is something that I live by. And being able to recognize, not only in myself, but in others, how we can begin to make sure that what we say is in alignment with who we are. And I think that's one of the most important lessons for people to learn in this lifetime, is being able to connect your word to your heart and being able to say things with compassion. And 2020 has been very, uh, to say the least, conflictual. We've had a lot of things happen in 2020, a lot of political divide. And when you watch these things on the news, they have an impact. And now, as a empowered being, how can we begin to shift that reality and help other people become more empowered? So instead of feeling divide in their life, they can feel more together and connected, and know that they're part of one humanity that works together with nature and not against it. And a lot of times I see other people, even within themselves, they're so conflicted within themselves that they begin to project that into their world. So the work that we do is really about that. How do you begin to integrate all those different parts of you so that you start to begin to feel whole, and then you can express that out into the world.
Thank you for that. uh, Dr. Lauren, what same question to you. What is something that a lot of people that are watching and listening, they consider themselves empaths?
Yeah.
What advice do you have for empaths on how to be a stand for people's greatness in a way that also empower the empath?
Okay, so there's a couple things. So when we are picking up on somebody else's energy, it's normally because we are in the sacral chakra. So we're almost doing like a 360 of like, now that we know what we know, we could have gotten out of what Aditi did to me when she gave me too much Reiki energy, right? Because she like moves all of my energy up to my crown chakra, and so my crown was wide open. So actually, when I do psychic readings, I move the energy up there purposefully now, so that I can get that information for people to let them know what to heal. But I, as an empath, tend to spend a lot of time in my sacral chakra. So one thing is you can just move up to your heart chakra, or you can move down to the root chakra. Another thing is to just use kind of different shielding techniques that are out there, that sort of thing. So it's about learning how powerful visualization is, right? So the first time I actually the book Creative Visualization. I don't know if you guys have read that, by Shakti Gawain, I think is who wrote it. She died a couple of years ago. She was one of the pioneers in the New Age spirituality movement. And I remember, and I was a teenager, and I think like I was not an easy teenager because I was really doing a good job of breaking out of some of the programming in the family and being rebellious. And that was part of how I got my freedom. But it was a battle at home, right? I mean, you can ask my mom. She's like, that was when my hair went gray. That was right. But so that book, I remember reading the visualizations and doing the breath work, or imagining the light coming down and kind of clearing out my field and being like, wow, I feel so much better. And then like, is this real? Because I didn't have any mentors in my life. I only had the book. And when we're taught that kind of spirituality isn't real, or when we don't realize how powerful visualization is, and that's actually connecting with our unconscious mind, and that's where our power is, right? It's hard to do it on your own, right? So here I am, this teenager, and I'm feeling better, and I'm moving this energy, and I'm finding this peace, and then I'm wondering, wow, is it real? And so now to just help people be like, it's actually that simple. Like, we're so disconnected from how powerful we are. How it's, you know, going to the word, it's going to visualization, it's going to intention, it's you know, making sure that our energy is aligned with what we want. It's really simple, and it's just about remembering who we are.
Thank you, Dr. Lauren. Chris, we can go to a different question. Something you said, it got really sparked my curiosity. You said about something about soul family. Is that what you said?
Oh, right. When I was talking about reincarnation.
Yes. Could you please? I know we're moving the subject here. Can you please explain what that is, and how it matters, and why it matters?
So this is on the idea that we have many, many incarnations, not just here on this planet, but in many different planetary systems, many star systems. And so we are connected to one another. And we're talking about everything in the universe is connected. There's actually an experiment they did where they split an atom and they sent them 7 miles this way, 7 miles this way, and then they touched this atom, and what they did to this one, it happened to the other side together. So they're saying that all energy is connected. So we're all connected. And when we incarnate, we often will incarnate in these soul families. And we will play out different parts with each other to learn. And the whole concept of having multiple incarnations is that the soul is wanting to expand its essence through understanding, like this kind of goes to the concept that we are all fragments of the one light. We are all sparks of the divine light. And so we all come from source, we are source. So as we're experiencing lifetime after lifetime as these separate but connected aspects of source, we are sending back all that knowledge and experience back to source. So soul families come together to complete lessons as groups, and often will come back many times over and over and over again, playing out different aspects of things. And often what will happen, you were talking about empaths earlier, and often what will happen is empaths feel that when they meet someone, they feel like they know each other. And I don't know if you've ever had that. You just met somebody and you click. You're friends. You know, it's almost like you don't need to go through the uncomfortable getting to know period. You just know them. And that's often a sign of somebody who's in your soul family. We call them our tribe. And when you find your tribe, it feels like you're home again. And that's what we're all being called to do right now in this time of ascension and this time of our expansion of consciousness, is to link up with tribe members, because we're going to activate that energy that's very common, right? We've got this common energy and we start to activate it in each other. So I know it kind of went way out there. I call to my clients, I'll say, now we're going four-wheeling, we're going off path, but that's kind of what the soul family means to me. And I might have some other people, you might have some of your people give their own opinions of that, but that's how I see it.
Thank you, Chris. And as you were speaking, I was imagining all kinds of visualizations and traveling through planets and stars and things I've heard in the past. I think I've heard that. Is it that is it true that everyone we meet or everyone that we have a certain experience with is part of the soul family? And I don't know if the number 36 has anything to do with it. But how? So you mentioned that maybe when you meet someone and you feel instantly connected, that's a good sign that that person is part of the soul family. Um, yeah, go ahead, Dr. Lauren.
Who I met my soulmate, I was like, wear your seatbelt because there's usually a lot of baggage that comes up then too. Sometimes it's like you've worked through it all, but lots of times there's a familiarity and
Yeah. Well, the one thing is that we're all learning from each other. We're all each other's lesson. So most of my guides, they don't think of it as good as and bad. You just were learning. So if somebody brings up something inside of you, part of how you learn and grow is to understand what's being triggered inside of you. But going back to the soul family, it can be many. So we're talking, you could have like say a small little soul family, right? That might be the connection of you and your family of origin, okay? But you could also have another big soul family that has to do with all the healers that maybe you're connected to. You could be another soul family of all those that came to the planet at this time of the ascension. And so you have many, many layers of being part of a soul family, but you know, it's just which one you're connecting to in the moment.
Dr. Lauren, you said soulmate. Did you say the word soulmate there? Okay, so what about soulmate? We've been talking about soul family. Now you're talking about soulmate. Soulmate, makes me think of romance and the one, and it's a word I've been using lately. Like, talk to me about what comes up to you.
did a really good job of describing kind of, if you meet someone in your soul family, they're a soul mate. So sometimes it's a romantic partner, sometimes it's a business partner, sometimes it's a friendship. But, sometimes it's more complicated because you're going into these older woundings that are there. So one of the things that Chris said that I almost interrupted on, and I stopped myself, so I'm proud of myself there, but was about how I like to talk to the people that I work with about, like, let's learn the lesson and get free from this, right? Because a lot of it has been the experience of suffering. And yes, the suffering has been about getting the lessons, but let's move the lessons so that we can get out of the experience of suffering and into the experience of freedom and joy and prosperity and health and all of these things. And that's really what a lot of my work, I think all of our work is. That's really what a therapist is doing, is we're looking for the shadow, we're looking to shine the light on the shadow, and if it needs to be reprogrammed, rewired, adjusted, a new belief installed, a new experience so that you can make that experience happen again, that's what we're doing. And Fernando, for me, the part that's the most fun for me is looking at the physical manifestation of disease. Because a lot of people don't understand the mind-body connection. We hear about it, we talk about it, we know that maybe if we're anxious, our heart is beating, or if we're sad, maybe we feel heavy, but it goes deeper than that, to where these emotional traumas, they call it epigenetics in medical science now, turn on disease markers. And so if we were to go back to talk about the family constellation or the ancestral healing, and we all have different methods of doing this, or childhood healing, or if it's past life healing, we can find where that trauma was turned on, resolve it, and then the body can flow the energy freely so the body can heal itself.
Wow. And so turning on the disease markers. So just as people may be turning on the disease markers, they may turn off the disease markers.
And turn them off, exactly, through a corrective experience.
And that to me sounds like magic.
It's a miracle. That's what I said. We're in the science of miracles, right? Before we went on, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. But it's
So Yeah.
Well, and that's working with the physical body, but sometimes it's the emotional body. Sometimes it's a miracle to finally be able to experience real love, right? Because if our families didn't have healthy communication patterns, or weren't always safe, or maybe there's a passive aggressive pattern where we don't know what real love feels like, and then it keeps feeling at home to be with someone that's in that pattern that's hurt us so much, right? And that's kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about suffering versus freedom. And so we are all trained in helping people turn the lights on, find the root cause, and shift it. So we might be shifting somebody out of disease or chronic pain or chronic migraines, but it might be out of falling in love with addicts, being in poverty. It's the same recipe that's
Mm.
creating these miracles, and it's also considered a quantum jump, right? Because if we're at a certain vibration, and my vibration is going to create these experiences, every time I heal something, I'm raising my vibration, I'm going to have better experiences. So it's literally, we're quantum jumping, and that is magic.
Mm. Amazing. Dr. Aditi, one of the things that I read in your bio that I did not know is about your 3,000 plus hours of practice. What have you learned over so many hours of practice that you did not know when you started, and that made your practice easier, and not only for you but also for the patients and clients?
Great question. Well, it goes back to the four bodies that we were talking about. I think being able to learn how to work with the spiritual, the mental, emotional, and physical bodies, if you know where the root cause is, because sometimes the root cause may be in the spiritual bodies, sometimes the root cause may be in the mental body. It may be a belief that you're holding. It may be that belief that you've never felt loved before can now, when you release it, be able to help you experience that love. And so you always think that, oh, because I'm not feeling love, that the root cause is in my emotional body, but it may be actually in your spiritual or mental body. So being able to discern with that practice which body the root cause actually lies is key to healing, because it's like a weed. If you don't get the deeper cause, the weed just grows back. And therapy seems to, for the most part, like traditional talk therapy, you just cut the surface all the time. And then you're hoping to get to the deeper cause eventually after like 20 years, but how much time have you lost? So being able in those hours recognizing, how can I accelerate this process? How can I with practice discern where the root cause actually lies? And that's why I think it's so important for people to make therapy and our type of therapy a more um, progressive thing instead of a woo woo thing, because really it's important in this age and now, right? Like, how much time have you lost in 20 years?
Right. It should be a regular self-care. I mean,
It
I don't
should
want
be a regular practice.
to
Um,
just like eating healthy, going to the gym, being around people that are kind and loving, you know, self mastery as a regular part of the human experience would really
yes.
expand forward.
Yeah, and Dr. DT, you mentioned the four bodies for a couple of times, and when me 2 months, 3 months ago, if you were to talk to me about that, I'll be thinking, wait, I only have one body. This is it. This is my body here. What are you talking about? What are these four bodies? How do you know they even exist? And how do you know the root causes are there? Like, can you explain a little bit to the viewers and listeners that might need explanation there?
Well, a lot of this comes from indigenous practices too, and hypnosis. So being able to recognize that sometimes when we become inspired, it comes from a different place than, because we are multidimensional. So it comes from a different space, that inspiration to do the things that we want to do, um, the goals that you have, they're your internal calling, right? So that comes from a different space than the space that you use to, eat your food, or when you feel hungry, or when you feel sad. So over time, people have recorded these things. And as you go through the process, and with 3,000 plus hours, you begin to notice like, hey, there's something else going on here besides just the physical body. Because if it was just the physical body, you would just be able to say, oh, I can turn off my hunger, right? If it was just the physical body, but you can't,
Mm.
right? So,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
there's people who can control their hunger, but that comes from a different space, right? They're able to control their spiritual and mental bodies. I mean, look at Wim Hof, right? He's a great example of someone who's able to access deeper states of consciousness to control his physiological healing. And there's
Indeed.
many examples of that around the world.
Yes, and all those ice baths and cold showers and jumping into oceans and running in snow and only shorts and sneakers. Um, very, very interesting. It's been in my own practice, I found that the more I choose to connect to my four bodies, meaning all the thoughts are not just happening inside this right here, or all the love is not happening in here. Like as I choose to, okay, I want to connect to these four bodies. I want to see what's up. I want to see if it's really true. The more I practice and the more I give myself permission, the more aware I'm becoming of. And when I do this, I do this practice where I choose to feel my energy around me, and then I feel, okay, is it 2 feet away? Is it 3 feet away? Is it 4 feet away? And keep expanding. Can I make my energy wider, higher, lower into the earth, higher into the sky? And it started as something I really was committed to. I want to know what Dr. Matt James is talking about. I want to see if it's true. And and for those of you who are curious about this and putting this to the test, you might want to put your hands together like this and feel the heat of your hand, and then as you feel the heat of your hand, you can make it uh, put it a little farther away while you still feel the heat of your hand, and then if you don't, get it closer. And the more you practice, you feel that chi, the energy, and then the more you practice, you still feel it, and then you can put that in your head, you can put it in your heart, in parts of your body that you want healing, you can send it to people. And so, and this is, I just wanted to share for those of you listening that this has been, even though it's woo-woo, it's actually not, because because we have just not been playing on that field. We haven't been playing. We've been playing on the field of this is the only thing that exists right here, the physical body. And it's definitely not that. And we can talk about, like Chris was saying, soul families. Like, who talks about soul families, and how is that relevant to paying the mortgage, or finding a significant other, or traveling the world? And it is connected if you choose to play in that level, because everyone can choose their level of
Absolutely.
the,
Everyone has free will.
everyone has free will, exactly. um
Yeah,
yes.
I wanted to just touch on something because we're kind of skipping around about this. We're playing with the word woo woo and everything, but one of the things that is so important for anybody who doesn't understand really what we when we talk about energy bodies and See, what has happened is there's a field called quantum physics that Albert Einstein and Max Planck and a whole bunch of other scientists back in the 1920s were talking about and were studying. Now, we largely have based our entire medical system and our entire world on Newtonian physics. That's from Isaac Newton back in the 1700s. There's nothing else that we base our world on from the 1700s, but we certainly have put our medical system on the Newtonian physics, which is the mechanical universe, which is only physical, right? But we knew 100 years ago that there was an invisible realm. And there's so much science backing this right now that it's almost it's kind of like crazy making to still play with the idea that it's woo-woo when really there's so much science that's showing quantum physics exists. And there's string theory, there's all the different types of scientific research studies that are showing that consciousness exists. So I wanted to just share that with you because one of the things that we're talking about when we talk about the energy bodies is we're talking about the vibration, the energy vibration of our thoughts, which is consciousness, of our emotional self, which is another form of consciousness, right? Everything is energy. And, and that's a whole other story that we could talk about is why is everything energy? When they looked inside the atom, they found that there was no solid mass. It was actually just waves of energy. So all of that is what really needs to be presented to people so they see, hey, listen, this is not just something we made up. This is hard science that's been proven for 100 years now. And this, everything that we're doing has been done by the indigenous people. The shamanic, we're going backward. We're going back to these ways because these ways are actually ways that helped us live. So I wanted to share that with you because,
Yeah, it's a good point.
we're working with quantum physics.
Yeah.
Really.
And it's in harmony, I think, is one of the other reasons why I love the work that we're all doing. You know, and this is my bias, but I think that the medical system right now has a lot of side effects, right? I mean, I think the pamphlets say, like, this is the main effect, but here's the undesirable side effects that you're going to get with it. And things like ancient Chinese medicine, when they give you the antidote, they also gave you the opposite, knowing that you needed both in order to take it in a healthy way, right? So it's about these ancient traditions are all balancing these things. And so when we're looking at, hey, why are you having these symptoms? We're not looking to numb them out or to pretend they're not there. We're looking at, why do heart attacks run in your family and not in this other family? Why is diabetes in your family and not this other family? What turns that on? And how do we bring your family and your body back to harmony and balance?
Yes. So
important. Wow. One thing I wanted to touch on is the word indigenous or indigenous people have come up a couple of times. Most people probably in the world have never met an indigenous person. Why is it important to learn from their traditions?
I can go. Yeah. So, and I'm gonna go be risky with political stuff again, but I think that we're kind of seeing some bullying happening with people wanting the vaccines to be mandatory, and pushing worldviews on other worldviews right now, and people discrediting the homeopathic medicine or naturopathic medicine as they're pushing these other worldviews, and we lose wisdom if we're not embracing every worldview. And to me, that's why I think, freedom of choice, freedom of choosing which reality you want to be in and resonate in, right? Like I believe illness is an energy frequency and that I have access to shifting energy frequencies. And that's my version of the vaccine. A vaccine is an energy frequency too, but it's not as harmonious as when I'm accessing the ones that are freely given in the universe, is my belief system. And
Got
so,
it.
And if I can go back to the medical model for just a minute, right now, our medical model is based on if you get sick, they make money, right? Whereas in Hawaiian culture, I think it was Chinese culture, the medicine man only got paid if you were well. So it's really interesting the system that we've created in our modern world, where corporations and governments and everyone can work together to keep you sick, right? Because so it's like it's asking yourself, like, what am I actually participating in, right? Am I supporting a system that wants me to stay sick so pharmaceutical industry can make money? And is or would I rather be in a system where wholeness and oneness is my reality, and I can figure out ways to heal and empower myself and my mind to do the healing, because I can tap into that potential and I have the ability to.
Yeah,
Um,
aspect of the indigenous, going back to the ways of the ancient people, is that that was at a time when they looked at balance. They looked at how to live among, they considered, we considered ourselves part of everything. So when you look at the Native Americans, we consider so part of, so the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the sky, the land was all alive. And so that fits with the paradigm when I was talking about quantum physics, is that and everything's alive, everything has consciousness. So when we start to go back to this world of connection to all and to balance ourselves according to how nature's always telling us how to do it. You know, it is nature's always explaining how do we keep the balance in the system. And I think that we get that paradigm in our mind that we are about balancing. We're not trying to cure. You don't need a cure when you're balanced emotionally, physically, spiritually. And that's what my practice is about, bringing people back into a balanced state. And then they achieve their health in that form. So that's to me dear to my heart, is to look at these indigenous cultures to see how they've been doing it, and kind of form our own, maybe, in a way, kind of, we're going into new times, so we take from the old and then we are creating.
Yeah, one of the classes I took in grad school was a rituals and healing class, and one of the big takeaways was rituals need to continue to evolve with the times, or else they lose their power, right? Because you need to keep your heart in it. If we're doing something from that has lost its meaning, then we're not.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
and it's 11:11 here.
Wow.
Oh,
Does what, like, speaking of rituals,
make a wish. 11, make a wish. That's a ritual.
what's that?
Even 11, make a wish. That's a ritual that a lot of people do, right? That's a ritual, a group ritual.
Yes, indeed. And let's see. So what I've gathered so far, that each of you have your passion, your reasons, and your fields of expertise, and you've come together, and you're creating this beautiful set of programs in Tulum, Mexico. And your goal is to empower others to be free from blocks so that it can be balanced. Please talk a little bit how that started, why the idea, and how you see that happening, and also tell us about what's program dates, what are going to be covered, who is it for, and you can go.
Okay. So we're holding it here in Mayor Tulum in Mexico City. Well, no, not in Mexico City, but in Mexico. Um, and it will be on January 1st through the 3rd. And our idea is to do release work the first 2 days. And then on the third day, you're going to get initiated into Huna, which is the Hawaiian practices that I've learned over the last 9 years. So it'll be the elemental initiation, which really covers energies that allow you to create a new foundation. And 2021, with the new year, is a great time to kind of take out old baggage, kind of figure out what is it that you want to take your journey on for the next year or so, and let's just create new foundations, new beginnings, being able to move forward from the past.
Yeah, and just to build on what Aditi said, so the big days are going to be the first through the third, but we actually do have some events. I'm going to be doing a family constellation evening on December 29th, which is about healing the ancestors and in the inherited patterns. And it is a good way to address physical disease or finances or blocks in love. It's one of the best ways to heal attachment. A lot of therapists are starting to see attachment injury as the first trauma. And so a lot of our maladaptive coping skills and beliefs come from that. And so family constellation is a really powerful way from the Zulu tribe of Africa. So that's December 29th. And then Dr. Aditi on the afternoon of December 30th is going to be doing a Ho'oponopono. So if people wanted to come out earlier, there's going to be more time to explore Tulum, and then there's going to still be some healings. Chris is going to be doing Kundalini yoga each morning. So people could do Kundalini yoga, come to our events. There's a New Year's Eve celebration. I don't know if the tickets are sold out already for that, but I think it's Indian food. Do you want to tell more about the New Year's Eve?
Yeah, I believe it's Indian food, and there's going to be musicians here to just bring in like nice meditative music to just welcome in the new year in a harmonious way. And there's also a dinner with Indian Ayurvedic food available here as well.
And then we're going into the events after that.
Yes.
For about 6 to 8 hours each day. And so we're looking forward to having fun with everybody there doing the release work. And then if for some reason somebody's like, oh, I really like their work and their style and I want to learn more about it, I do have some audio healings on my ascensionpsychology.com website. So there's 3 series about shifting to abundance, which helps remove the blocks out of the different bodies so that people can create prosperity and freedom. And then there's one shifting to healthy immunity, which I made specifically to help people have healthy immunity and resolve the fear around COVID. And so, you know, they're bundled together, but they're all going into deeper levels like we were talking about. So if for some reason you're like, hey, we want to know more about their work, we're in San Diego, California. We'd be happy to see people at the retreats. We have couples retreats coming up in April also, and the audios.
Amazing. What's the website again?
It's ascensionpsychology.com.
And Dr. Aditi, you gave us a tour earlier of your beautiful property. I wonder if it's appropriate for you to show a little bit.
I will do my best because I don't know what exactly the camera will show on my laptop. However, I will do my best to give you just a little bit of a tour of the property, just so people can get an understanding of how quiet and beautiful it is here. So I will just turn around, and we have a little pool area here.
Lower.
If you lower the screen a little bit.
Okay.
And then to the registration to come to the events is on the ascensionpsychology.com website as well.
Okay.
And then we have a little walkway. We have some villas. These are the backside. And just so beautiful and so natural. Hearing the birds in the morning. And then we have another villa over here. And then this palapa up here is where we do massages, sound healings, yoga. So that's where Chris will be doing her yoga in the morning.
So beautiful.
And then
So Meyer Tulum is really a angle of Tulum. It's about 5 miles, I think, outside of the city. And so I hear that there's like jaguars in the trees of the jungle of Tulum. So I want to take everybody on the adventure and like find the sleeping jaguars in the trees. I hear that they won't bother us too much, but I want to hike. If people come out and want to even do the hike as a group, you know, it might be harder because we'd have to really practice being quiet or whatever, but
And then we just got this Indian tandoor, so we can have fresh naan, fresh tandoori chicken. That, oh my God, the chef made it the other day. It was so divine. And
Amazing.
then
I'm getting hungry already.
front area, and we have a temazcal available as well. And then we have a kitchen right here. So, and that's Martha.
That's just beautiful. Wow.
She is the heart of Mayor. Anything you need at Mayor, she will be available to help.
Amazing.
so
Awesome.
on the
That's a little bit of a tour of Mayor Tulum.
Mayan ruins that are there. So there's a lot of Mayan history. And the temezcal is the Mayan version of the sweat lodge. And so people can have a traditional Mayan sweat lodge in the temezcal there at Mayan Tulum.
Amazing. So let's see. So we got the website for the folks that are interested. How's the traveling from the US to Mexico? What did you need to do? Are the borders okay? Did you have to do anything in regards to immigration? How did that go? Because I know, Dr. Aditi, you just traveled maybe a few days ago.
Yeah, immigration, the borders are open. You just want to make sure that you are healthy before you come and you're able to wear your mask on the plane. Make sure that you're taking well care of yourself, stay well hydrated. There are 2 immigration forms that you have to fill out coming into Mexico. And other than that, if you need help with transportation or anything like that, we can help. Go ahead, Lauren.
For tourism, because if you look online, it says, you know, it's open for business. And I said, oh, we're going for business because we are. And no, it's tourism, it's tourism. So it's okay to come for tourism. They will let you come through. They are doing temperature checks at the airport about 2 or 3 times. It's calmed down a lot. I came into Mexico in September and it's calmed down a lot. There isn't like the fear and the frenzy in the airport as much, but there is extra safety precautions to be in consideration of. And then when you're going out in Mexico, it's nice to wear the mask. A lot of the locals here in masks a lot, and they also often take your temperature before you go into restaurants and stuff. So it is important to make sure that you are healthy.
And we are considering those guidelines as well. That's why our group for the New Beginnings workshop is also very small, because, you know, we want to be considerate as well of the local people.
Indeed. Awesome. Anything else you'd like to share with the audience? Any parting advice, any message, any tools, any gifts, anything, any guided meditation, anything?
Lauren, would you like to lead a guided meditation?
I can do a mini guided meditation. I can do a family constellation healing. So lots of times, family constellation healing, it is about being in a group. And traditionally it's done where we're representatives and we intuit what people are healing. But for one-on-one work and kind of group work, we're like this, it can be done this way. I'm going to do just a really mini version just because to be conscientious of time. But it's nice to feel our ancestors behind us. So if you guys want to just go ahead and close your eyes and just notice what it feels like to be in your space. And the ancestors are really there to guide us and support us. And so actually the Zulu tribe believes that when the ancestors die, that they learn all of their lessons and that they want to pass it on. And so the family constellations is actually a way to connect with the ancestors and learn the lessons that they want to give you. So it's an active way of honoring and connecting with the ones that have passed. And so if you go ahead and you close your eyes, go ahead and look at your mother and your father in front of you. And just notice if there's anything that you want to say to them. And notice what they look like. Notice if there's any kind of a healing that they need. Some of us have anxious parents or depressed parents or parents that have alcohol problems. If there's anxiety, go ahead and picture it a certain color. And go ahead and see that color wash off of them and go down into the earth. If there's any depression, picture that a certain color. And go ahead and use your visualization and see the depression fall off of them down into the earth. If there's addiction, picture that a certain color and wash that off of them as well. And if you're having a hard time visualizing it just falling, you can, wash it off with water. You can use a hose, you can spray them off, you can put them in a shower under a waterfall. You can shine bright light on them, that UV light that people are using to disinfect. You can go ahead and disinfect these energies off of them. And then notice now that your parents have this healing, notice how it changes you. Notice what it feels like to have a harmonious parent. When I'm looking at kind of what the group can use, I can see that there's actually blocks for the parents being able to give love. So go ahead and take a look at your parents' heart chakra and look at all of the burdens that they've inherited through the generations, where their ability to give and receive love was injured. And go ahead and just shine light into that and see it go through all of the generations behind them, so that everybody can feel included and loved and adored. And notice when the grandparents are able to love and support your parents are now able to love and support you more. And notice what it feels like to be able to be emotionally, physically nurtured, to have your essence seen. Imagine your parents looking deep into your eyes and seeing your essence for the first time. Go ahead and take in that energy of being good enough. Go ahead and see how their heart can expand when they look at you, and go ahead and let your guard down, your defenses that you've learned. Let it down so that you can let that love in, and go ahead and experience that heart-to-heart connection with your parents, maybe for the first time. And go ahead and breathe into that feeling of being seen, of being worthy, of being enough. And now what we're going to do is go ahead and move towards your parents and picture yourself sitting at their feet. And behind them have their parents and the generation behind them. And notice what it feels like to have your ancestors behind you, loving and supporting each generation before them. And if you have children, you can go ahead and you can put your child in your lap. And notice what it feels like to be able to give that love forward. And I like to end, our unconscious mind takes direction from our conscious mind. I like to end with unconscious mind. That is the new way of being, to really solidify it in there. If there's anything that you notice about the experience, or if you want to spend some more time connecting with that more and solidifying it, or if you want to book a session with one of us to work on that attachment, you would know that you need to work on it if there's resistance coming up, or anger, or but they did me so wrong, I don't want to take their love. Our parents are our first idea of a higher power. So it's going to be hard to connect with the higher power if we don't have a good relationship with our parents, and it's going to be hard to connect with a loving relationship. So there's reasons why you want to be free and change the relationship in your unconscious mind and what family constellations calls the family soul. And so that's some of the principles of family constellation healing. And I hope you guys enjoy it. You can see maybe if one of the ancestors wants to give you a gift. But I don't
Thank
know.
you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Lauren. That was beautiful. Wow. Very powerful. And the part that you talked about, if you have children, place them on your lap. Um, I placed my quote unquote children, my pets, and my whole body was like goosebumps.
I love seeing how like curious you are into looking at this stuff more. And like I can see your wheels turning as you're kind of processing everything. And yeah, I mean, when you get the goosebumps, the confirmation that it's working, when you have the experiences, it's good stuff.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. For everyone listening, the website's not, I'm going to put the website on the comments below. So it's easy for you to check check their website out, ascensionpsychology.com.
Correct.
Correct. Dr. Aditi, thank you so much for sharing your friends with me and with my audience. And thank you for the work you're doing. I'm so grateful I met you. Dr. Lauren, is so nice and beautiful to connect with you for the first time. It's been an honor and a pleasure. Chris, who used to be sitting there next to you, is not there. I'm very happy.
Bilocated.
What's that?
I said she quantum jumped.
She did. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry about that, Fernando. I wasn't sure how much longer we were going to be. I couldn't wait.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. Thank you so much for who you are, what you stand for, your love and your passion for helping people. It's been an honor to meet you. And looking forward to connecting more, getting deeper, sharing more of the beauty that and the healing you bring into the world. And have an awesome day.
We'll catch up in San Diego probably.
Yes, we're so close. So when you return, for sure, enjoy your time in Tulum. All the beautiful weather there, the jungle and the jaguars, and all the and I'm sure the people that need this work, they're coming to you right now, and they'll be there. And thank you for raising the vibration for everyone. It's affecting everyone. It's affecting people that are not even in the U.S. or Mexico. Is affecting the whole world.
The group consciousness is a real thing. Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good Christmas Eve.
Yes. Happy holidays.
Happy
Bye-bye.
holidays. Bye.
Bye, Fernando. Thank you.
Bye-bye.